Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, faut qu'on passe the microphone so long. Yeah, you were waiting for me on that, huh? All right, okay, all right. Thank you for being with us. First question will go to Dr. Oduno. Doctor, what are the long-term consequences if we ignore to train the current workforce? What are we in? What is awaiting us if we do ignore to train them? Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Let me refer to a study that was conducted in Kenya about 2018, 2019 in a way of answering that question. There was a study conducted on employability skills of university graduates in Kenya, and the results were as follows. The University of Nairobi, the employability skills was 27.8%, and Kenyatta University was 21.3%, Moi University 18%, and so on and so forth. And I thought this was a bit alarming because when we are in the university and the employability skills are assessed at that rate of 27% being the highest, then in the training institutions, we have to ask ourselves, are we really addressing the issue of employability skills in our country? These skills included, of course, things like digital skills, because the study went further down to look at specific competencies, and of course, digital skills was one of them. So, to answer the question, that is what we are looking at. It's like an elephant in the room, where if we ignore the demands in current training in terms of required skills for employability, then we'll have a problem in the future. Recently in Rwanda, the Ministry of Education through the Higher Education Council had a focus on universities that are training in ICT-related programs. And again, the findings were also alarming in the sense that the experts highlighted areas that are really not being covered in curricula that universities are teaching. Some of these areas came out this morning, like Internet of Things, data analytics, and so on. So if we do not focus on this, then the future will be very bleak for, in terms of employability skills of our graduates. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Doctor. Monsieur Ondobontsanga, rapidement, le monde digital est quelque chose qui est de plus en plus inévitable. Nous sommes, on ne peut plus faire sans, ce n'est plus possible. Mais qu'est-ce qui nous guette si on fait sans, justement? Est-ce que le continent africain, qu'est-ce qu'il gagne à ne pas justement faire fi de ce qui est en train de se passer partout?
Merci de me passer la parole. Good morning, everyone. Bonjour à tous. Mwaramutse Rwanda. Alors, je suis très ému, comme je viens de dire. Les défis du continent africain sont énormes. Ce n'est plus à démontrer. C'est des propos qui reviennent à peu près dans tous les discours, toutes les interventions de la grande qualité du panel qui défile ici, y compris les ministres de notre continent qui ont pris la parole précédemment, ainsi que le président de la fondation ICDL et tous les bureaux de ICDL Afrique et toutes les représentations de ICDL. Je vais embrayer par revenir sur la crise du Covid-19 qui a renforcé le potentiel de la digitalisation afin d'accélérer la transformation productive de l'Afrique, réaliser l'agenda 2063 de l'Union africaine. Bien avant la pandémie, le continent enregistrait déjà plusieurs succès retentissants en matière de transformation de son économie et disposait d'un nombre croissant d'écosystèmes de start-up très dynamiques en Afrique, comme vous savez. Ensemble, avec la révolution des paiements mobiles qui atteint désormais un pic incroyable d'à peu près 300 millions de comptes de paiement mobiles en Afrique. C'est l'un des chiffres les plus élevés au monde. Ces écosystèmes numériques ont déjà commencé à transformer les marchés de l'emploi par la création d'emplois notamment directs et indirects, à moderniser le secteur bancaire, à des financiers destinés aux populations desservies et à favoriser les modèles d'entreprise innovants. À présent, je voudrais dire que les pouvoirs publics peuvent mettre à profit cette transformation digitale afin de susciter une création réelle d'emplois massives de façon concrète, en particulier par des moyens indirects en concentrant les efforts sur 4 principaux axes. C'est-à-dire, en premier, assurer un accès universel aux infrastructures digitales pour éviter le creusement des inégalités liées à la situation géographique, au genre, au niveau d'éducation et à la situation professionnelle. En petit 2, promouvoir la diffusion des innovations numériques dans les villes intermédiaires pour avoir un effet multiplicateur important. En petit 3, préparer les jeunes Africains et plus particulièrement ceux qui travaillent dans le secteur informel à mieux bénéficier des technologies digitales. Avant de continuer, je voudrais quand même préciser que, en dehors d'être CEO de Mossi Group, je suis le président des jeunes patriotes panafricains. Ça veut dire que j'ai des entrées importants et une influence certaine dans beaucoup beaucoup de pays d'Afrique, surtout francophones. Donc c'est important de le mentionner parce que c'est un défi qui nous incombe à faire en sorte que l'Afrique, la jeunesse africaine, soit digitale et numérique au maximum. Alors, je continue avec le petit 4. Nous devons lever les obstacles à l'adoption des technologies digitales et à l'innovation dans ce domaine afin de permettre aux petites et moyennes entreprises de se développer et de soutenir la concurrence dans l'ère du digital. En petit 5, accélérer la coordination au niveau continental et régional. C'est quelque chose d'essentiel pour compléter les stratégies nationales. Je vous remercie. Morakose.
J'aime beaucoup le côté où vous rappelez votre autre titre, parce que justement, c'est en pouvant rêver la jeunesse africaine, en ayant les entrées dont vous êtes en train de parler, qu'on peut y arriver justement, en touchant les décideurs. Très important.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Morakose.
All right. Miss Wamahoro? Mrs. Wamahoro. All right. Creating partnerships, we talked about it earlier, between the private and the public sector. How can creating them for implementation benefit the acceleration to train the workforce today, the current workforce?
Okay. If you could repeat the question. Thank you.
Creating partnerships between the public and the private sector is very important in this case. Now, how can having both of them collaborate accelerate the training of the current workforce, the one that we have at the moment?
Okay. Hello, good morning. Yeah, my name is Wamahoro Nadia. I'm the CEO and founder of Data System. It's a software company. When I started Data System, I was still a student at the University of Rwanda. by that time, there were a lot of issues related on scholarship not coming at the right time. So a lot of students, my colleague, were in school, were finalizing, they were in their final year, was just starting my university. And then at the radio, I hear they wanted to go to strike, they were complaining, and I couldn't get it. I said, yes, there are issues related to skills, but also there are issues related to people who have companies that couldn't get people to help them to digitalize their work. There were issues related to things we could do. Creating website, for example, was one of it. And on the other side, there were people in school who were looking for money. So while I was still thinking about that, I decided to create data system that I was thinking would be a platform that could connect interested partners, government, companies, to connect with university students or other people who are looking for employment in the tech industry. Of course, there were issues related to trainings in different companies. There were issues related to digitalization. People were talking about digitalization, but there was also a mindset of people thinking that if we digitalize the services, we're going to lose employment. So I looked at it, one of the things about being an entrepreneur is to look at the issues that are currently exist and then try to find a solution. Not necessarily sitting there, but even create conversations. So I saw an opportunity to create that partnership between the government, the market, and the students, so that students could get employment and vice versa. So what is crazy is that as soon as we created the platform that we called Rwanda Recruit, I approached the students, and many of the students were very interested. So we put the platform, we got people like UNHCR who were looking for, exactly at the same time they were looking for people to digitalize, to create fingerprints and build a platform where they could register refugees. So we were very lucky to work with them. We were deployed in different camps. It was the time there were a lot of refugees coming from Congo to Rwanda. So we got that opportunity to get employment, and for 3 months registered the refugee. But at the same time, Tigo, one of the telecommunication company, was starting in Rwanda. They were looking for engineers. Of course, we applied. We were not very lucky with the project because of the skills we were looking for. So it triggered me. So, okay, we have people who just graduated from the universities, and these were the first, like the best. But then you have another company that knows what they're looking for, but if they can't recruit these people, then there is skills mismatch. So that was one of my observations. So as I continue, I came across a project that the government of Rwanda was implementing called One Laptop Per Child. So I went to visit the project because it was something I was very passionate about when I was in still the school, primary schools and secondary school. I was dreaming of having a computer, but that was not something that were existing. Not all the schools had computers, but even the computers that were there was meant to be used during the course of ICT. So each time I was going there, because I wanted already to become an entrepreneur, to rent some of the computers, they were telling me, sorry, it is closed. Sometimes they'll close it because they want to protect the computers, so no one steals them. No one used them, but no one steals them. So this is crazy because I went to some of the schools to do a research about my company, because I was just now graduated and wanted to do it in a formal way where we start by a research. I found that in some of the schools, the computers were also closed. So I asked the headmaster, and the headmaster said, oh, if we open the computer labs and people steal the computers, what happens? So I said, if you close them and people don't learn, so what happens? So I think we have more issues than not letting people try use the computers. Trust me, today we're in 2022, that time it was in 2013, but still the same issue still exists. And how? Still, because not so many teachers are trained on how to teach with technology, so they tend to not use computer in teaching. So it's not the students now that are afraid of using computers, but they cannot access computers because the bosses who are the teachers are not equipped. So if we want to change all this, so we need to type the point where the computers need to be, yes, took to schools, but also teachers need to be trained on how to teach with technology. So having solutions like ICDL, I think it's very important. You cannot just give computers to students and forget teachers, but you cannot give teachers computers and forget to train them. So these kind of trainings that brings the work with the skills gap, but at the level of the schools, they are very, very important. So the culture of learning using a device, it's not only about learning ICT, but it's already about understanding the tool that you're going to use in the workplace. So this has to start, this kind of program has to start from the school, but coming up to what you're saying about employability now. People get the chance to use computers when they're in school. Then at the university now, it's no longer about learning what they're teaching you. It's about also thinking of 21st century skills. So how are you now going to use these tools or these skills and apply them to a world where e-commerce, after the pandemic. So e-commerce is now being the new trend. So the trend, projection are that in 2030, 50% all the trade transactions are going to be online. So in 2050, it's going to be normal to build your e-commerce portal before you think about opening a physical store. So, and anyone who do the physical store will start by digital store before they can implement. Why it was vice versa. So it's very important that people, I hear a lot of people were at the university to start opening up about collaboration with programs like ICDL. Myself, my company has a program called Ishuri. Ishuri is about a digital, Ishuri in Kinyarwanda means digital school. So we are creating a digital school that first of all focuses on the content. We started by STEM content for primary and secondary school. We are collaborating with governments around Africa to see how they can use this platform to teach. But most importantly, when we build it, and the reason why I visited school was to say, okay, yeah, you're teaching mathematics, you're teaching biology, but believing, seeing is believing. So if you're teaching me how the blood is circulating in the heart and the body, I want to see how it works. So those are the simulation we're being able to build. But I want to strengthen on the collaboration with different schools, teachers in Rwanda. And in 2019, we signed another contract with the University of Rwanda. And what we want to do this time is to open up a program that train university students on how to be developers, but also not stay there. Where we are now, there is need for data scientists. There is need for cybersecurity experts. There's need of IoT. All these new technologies now are part of things to be taught in school, but also to be done in the market. So there has to be an open up of and the government has to be the one to push this conversation where government, academia, the market, and people like, I gave the example of Tigo, to say this is the curriculum, this is what we want. The people want to recruit are with these skills. Please develop the people, but also there is this collaboration. So yes, the PPT has to be also to go tap the academia, the government, but also the market, but also Africa needs to align with that, the trends of digital economy and the world we are in now. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia. Thank you very much. She deserves that and much, much more. Honorable Eke, I'm going to forego the question I had prepared for you because she's putting us basically in front of reality and in front of our responsibilities. And to know where the world is now, Africa needs to catch up. How do we do that? How do we train? Because time is not on our side. How do we catch up to the rest of the world when it comes to the workforce, especially skills-wise? How do we close the gap?
Greetings, everybody. Honorable Leke Ogundemo is my name. I am from Nigeria. Permits me to ride on the existing protocol. Without wasting much time, considering my person and the capacity of a chartered Six Sigma person, I would like to bring up a bit of my job into being here. There's what we call Kaizen, which is an approach, right, that looks basically into continuous improvements. Right, with this continuous improvement approach, there are a couple of things I'm going to bring into Six Sigma that would eventually be related to the topic of interest and the topic that is currently ongoing. However, we need to build the mindset that realizes the need for a continuous improvement within the workforce and within the growing economy. Now, without considering the economic quagmire, if you look at the fact that Kaizen is one area that talks about continuous improvement, and there is a word in Japanese that we call muda, which in other words means waste. If Africans generally would adopt the whole idea of what ICDL is bringing on board, it will help us eradicate muda. How do I mean? What is muda? I said to you, it is waste. Now, I was able to put one or two things down here. Muda in Six Sigma, which could be applied to all schools across Africa, regardless of their level, be it tertiary, primary, or secondary institutions. It will do us the way, okay, I think somebody mentioned this point. I haven't written it down. Somebody mentioned it, I think one of the professors over there, that we can do without having papers, which is a waste in the current economy. If you look at it, the use of paper and pen is currently a waste. We could learn without the use of papers and pens. How do I mean? In Nigeria, where I came from, there is a large campaign about converting waste to gold. How do I mean? On a daily basis, we find papers on the road. We find used pens, used plastics on the road. And pens that we use are made from plastics. The paper that we use are going to eventually contribute to a large scale of waste at the end of the day, which would eventually give the government a concern towards looking for a way to get rid of these things from the streets. Now, if we all adopt digital skills from the school level to the entire workforce, you would find that we would eradicate most of this waste. Waste in two ways. Waste as in the waste originally, and waste with the money through which parents would have to invest in buying papers from time to time. You can actually go online and read 5 books per day without using a dime to buy it, simply by having data on your phone or on your device. Now, what am I saying? If you look at it, adopting digital skills as a transformative methodology for farmers, even farmers, they need digital skills, even in rural areas. How do I mean? I said for farmers, it will help them operate regardless of their educational background, right? A farmer most likely are not seen as persons that are educated, but if you give them the digital skills, knowledge, it will help them do what? Let's see. For the farmers, it helps them to better ban their farm produce whilst tracking storage and stocks digitally. So you don't need to start counting how many yams do we have here over and over again. How many potatoes did we harvest at a particular time over and over again? You can by simply saying on an Excel sheet, you say we have 1,000 yams harvested, 35 gone bad, we have 965 in place and in good shape. So if we are selling 50 to Mr. A, how many do we have? Excel sheets give you the answer without waiting a minute. If you are selling 200 to Mr. B, Excel sheet gives you the answer without wasting a minute. That way, their time will be more resourceful, it will be more energetic for them, and it will be more productive for such a person. Now, bringing it back home, I got to Rwanda for the very first time yesterday, putting a whole lot of things aside by virtue of the invite I got from my very good friend, Solange, and I decided to honor her. Now, when I looked around, I was at the topmost floor of this particular hotel, and I had a discussion with a friend that came in from the US while we were eating, and he said one of the reasons why digital skills would not be permitted in Africa is that it's going to help us face out the major root cause. I mean, that's another Six Sigma part. RCA, deploying a root cause analysis on what is the reason why we are staying away or deviating or shifting from adopting digital skills as a primary way of life in Africa. And that's why if you look at the economy globally, you'll find that we are way behind, like he rightly said. So one of the ways to go is to quickly adopt this system. But then my friend told me, he said, the people that are feeding fats from the problems of not being digitally inclined would not allow it to be implemented in this part of the world, which is Africa generally. So what do? Let us be able to show them through the areas where we are missing it. Under Kaizen, there is a part that tells you about identifying the problem. When you identify the problem, having deployed a root cause analysis, then you bring up a measure through which that problem could be tackled. And what is the measure? ICDL has been able to profile a solution for the way forward, which is by getting everybody into a digitalized lifestyle. Now, how do we know if this has worked? I mean, when I listened to the MD the other time, or the founder, he said something and that got me really thrilled. He said, okay, why ICDL? I heard that, and I think I noted it here. He said, simply because it works. So to the point where you need to analyze whether the solution you have, the hypotheses that are available for you, are they workable? He has said it. He said for 25 years, it has consistently thrived. So if that is the case, in my country, Nigeria, where I met Solange at the office of the Director General, the National Youth Service Corps, you know, I'm aware that they came there for a purpose. If you are able to catch it from that level, which is a person that is already a graduate, and you are able to track it, okay, from the fundamental level, deviating from what one of the panelists said earlier, that a primary school child or pupil do not really need to be digitally skilled, right? I want to deviate a little from that fact. You need to start with them. If you go to Spain, they don't wait until a child is 12 before they start teaching them how to play football. They catch them young. In China, if you are a manufacturing guru and they've seen in you certain skills that are worthy of being lauded, the government picks you up from that level and they start building you. So it's going to even make it a lot easier for people like ICDL to be able to thrive better, because you don't have to start from the fundamental level. When they eventually grow, and I mean, they have the primary knowledge of what a keyboard is, they understand what a mouse is, they have, I mean, some basic knowledge of, I have so much to say, but let me save the time. Thank you very much.
Well, we could listen to you for hours because it makes a lot of sense. Now, do not keep your microphone. I'm still coming to you. Now, when we say this, it means the youth, kids have to be, by the time let's take ICDL as an example in this case. By the time ICDL picks up this kid from the workforce after they're done with their studies, when they start in the workforce, what you're saying is that the earlier these kids have skills, the faster we can catch up with the rest of the world, because then it will be just a matter of them having the proper the proper tools. That's what you're talking about. Yes. Now, let's say we understand that. In this room, we understand that. What I'm kind of mad at is that usually when we have these kind of gatherings, these kind of forums, once we get out of the room, everything stays in the room.
True.
What do we do to implement what you're talking about?
All right. That's a very tactical question. I like it though. Okay, so basically, I happen to be the founder and the principal consultant of Tom Fleming Associates International Limited, a firm that helps organizations to grow their return on investments, one, and we also help them improve productivity in their staff. Now, the question relates to this was that I did a program for EFCC, that is the Economic Financial Crime Commission in Nigeria, and somebody engaged me, the person who happens to be the commandant of the EFCC Academy. He said, look, we are having a problem. I said, what's the problem? He said, we are aware there are lots of cybercrime, but we have personnel who are not digitally skilled, who do not understand what Bitcoin is. How does he operate? Most of the cybercrimes now goes underneath the name e-money. You know what I mean by that? E-currencies. Now, you have Bitcoin, you have a whole lot of them. Now, they do not even understand where to start tackling these cybercrimes from because they themselves lack the digital skills knowledge. Now, going with this to ensure that we do not leave all that has been discussed here in this room, the way forward is for us all to have an open mind and agree with every panelist and all other persons seated here, especially the ICDL team, that the way forward today is the digital skill. Once we accept that within our minds, then it will be a lot easier for us to align and drift towards acting in that capacity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Leke. Ms. Wamahoro, tell us about the hurdles that you meet on a daily basis, weekly basis, however long or short you want to take it. But tell us about the hurdles you meet when trying to explain to the workforce, to the people you have to deal with on a daily basis, what is needed and what gets you frustrated.
Thank you very much. I get frustrated when I see a young man or young lady with a lot of potential spending or being content to go to work and come back home and then watch Netflix, using their time in a way that they don't add value to what they already have, not having ambition, thinking that the government owe them to improve their life, or anyone else. As for women, it's also like everyone wants to marry a billionaire. No one is focusing on becoming one. So I ask myself, how are we going to do that? You even explain one of your brother, sister in the family that they need to, aim higher, use their time, not just sitting there and understand that it's okay, So with this economy that is very volatile and with the future, when you hear, for example, in 2025, so already now, there is more than 9 million jobs gap in the STEM. So in America and Canada, there's 9 million jobs that don't have anyone to take them. Then at the same time, you have more than 70% of the youth of Africans being the youth and women. And a lot of them, more than 50%, are not employed. So you ask yourself, one, there is an issue related to the fact that African governments, they are putting their priority to something that are not very necessary, according to me. I believe that education, digital skills should be the priority for now for Africa, because our biggest resources are not natural resources, mines. For me, it's the people. It's the people, because if now that we speak, Nigerian GDP has surpassed the GDP of South Africa, you see that it's all about the people. Is that Nigerian people, they said we're gonna make it, and they made it. Individually, everyone is making it. But also at the top of the pillar, there has to be a government that looks for everyone, focusing on security, focusing on empowering people, making digital access, schools open and good and easy for everyone to access them. So you ask yourself, a lot of countries in Africa are not safe. A lot of countries in Africa are not, the human rights, the people are not getting what they're looking for, what they should take as granted. So then you look at countries like Rwanda, like Namibia, like Ethiopia, where things are happening very rapidly. Then you look at also a country like Nigeria, again, who has a lot of potential in economy, but everyone wants to be rich alone. So you keep seeing those are the things that even if you want to make it in Rwanda, and then they come, they say, okay, there is Africa free trade area, opportunity for every African, for every youth to grow your company to the African continent. But you want to go there, someone signs a contract for you. You go back to do what you're supposed to be doing. When you come back, you're not paid because they have changed the minister. I did not sign with the minister. You see, I signed with the government, but that's even not okay. So some people are sitting there, they're looking for a solution. The solution is available in some other African markets. Examples are available. So we are talking of Africa. We know that we need to work together, but we're still giving opportunities to other countries, because the trade, Africa trades more with China and Europe, but Africans don't trade among Africans. Africans need Africans. We are talking about racial problems and the way we want to be supported, but everyone is not contributing. So the things that makes me mad every day is because I see that we have the potential. I see that we are able to do things today and tomorrow. And then we know that these digital skills are the opportunities that are there to make meetings online. So, but we don't put policies, and when policies are there, we don't respect them as business people. So there has to be maybe some social enterprise that tells us, or some Pan-Africans, social enterprise that tells us, works in a, we need to wake up, work together. This Africa will be built by us and together.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, huge applause for that. Monsieur Tsanga, nous sommes en train de parler de plusieurs choses à la fois, mais elles sont toutes reliées d'une façon ou d'une autre. L'interdépendance entre le secteur privé et le pouvoir étatique, le fait que la jeunesse doit être formée très tôt pour qu'on puisse rattraper le retard qu'on a. Nous avons l'honorable Eke qui a parlé des footballeurs espagnols qui sont formés très tôt. Et donc à l'âge de 12 ans, quand ils intègrent des académies, il y a déjà une base. Il faut qu'on ait une base. Mais pour avoir cette base, moi je me disais par exemple, et je suis sûr que je ne suis pas le seul, que pendant la pandémie, à quelque chose malheur et bon, il y allait avoir un rapprochement entre nous et le reste du monde, parce que tout le monde était bloqué à la maison de toute façon, et tout le monde était obligé de bosser de la maison de la même manière. Est-ce que vous, dans votre vie de tous les jours, et c'est la même question que je suis en train de poser à tout le monde, vous voyez vraiment un rapprochement entre nous et le reste du monde, où il y a toujours beaucoup à faire, et dans votre secteur, qu'est-ce qu'il faut faire, justement, à votre avis, pour que justement ce retard soit rattrapé? Merci.
Mourakosé, je pense qu'au-delà de l'euphémisme que ça pourrait comporter, il faut qu'on change de mindset. C'est la première chose. Il faut qu'on adopte le mindset euh, des pays à vocation ou, je dirais, les pays anglo-saxons. Parce qu'ils ont une très grande différence de mindset qui n'a rien à voir avec nous autres qui sommes dans des pays francophones. Bon, c'est vrai qu'il y a mon ami Daris qui représente l'Afrique de l'Ouest, il est là. Je loue l'excellent travail qu'il fait là-bas au Sénégal, en Côte d'Ivoire et autres. On devrait tout faire pour copier le mindset des anglo-saxons. Au-delà de porter les jupes écossaises, il faut qu'on aille sur le terrain. Il faut qu'on soit concret. Il faut qu'on soit pragmatique. Et j'essaye de dire aux jeunes que nous n'avons pas beaucoup de temps. Pour attraper le gap, c'est vrai que la jeunesse africaine fait beaucoup d'efforts ces derniers temps depuis le Covid. Il y a eu beaucoup d'avancées, mais nous pouvons aller beaucoup plus vite encore. Ça veut dire quoi? Il faut donner le pouvoir à la jeunesse, le pouvoir des nouvelles technologies, de l'information et de la communication. Il faut sensibiliser au maximum, dès la base. Les vrais jeunes, nous on est un peu les éclaireurs, mais il y a des vrais jeunes. C'est pour ça qu'il faut poser des actes concrets. Je vous dirais par exemple que dans ma délégation, il y a des gens qui se contentent d'aller dans les colloques internationaux, des conférences, ICDL ou autres. Ils viennent, les CEO viennent. Ils viennent, on s'assoit là avec les beaux costumes, les belles robes. Mais ce n'est pas ça. Il faut impliquer la jeunesse. C'est pour ça que dans ma délégation du Cameroun, Mosisi Group, j'ai 5 personnes dans ma délégation. Il y a 4 jeunes. Les jeunes, ils ont tous 23 ans. Ils sont étudiants. Vous pouvez vous lever, comme vous voyez. Rosie, on est là, Steve et William. Vous voyez leur visage? Ce sont les tout jeunes. On a fait le voyage ensemble pour venir toucher du doigt ce qui se passe ici à Kigali. C'est vrai que c'est ICDL. Mais pourquoi est-ce que c'est particulier? C'est particulier parce que le Rwanda est une grande référence en matière de TIC. Je voudrais féliciter encore là, le président, son Excellence Paul Kagame, qui s'est montré le chemin, et bien sûr son ministre, Madame Paola Ngambire, qui est là. C'est un travail remarquable. On dit en proverbe bantou que Goaïm anebete song rentong ou baba lombu. Goaïm anebete song rentong ou baba lombu. Ça veut dire, si vous ne savez pas comment on taille la lance, vous regardez l'oreille du chien. Parce que l'oreille du chien est pointue comme la lance. Et le Rwanda ici est cette oreille du chien que nous devons regarder pour savoir comment on taille la lance. C'est pour ça que c'est un plaisir d'être à Kigali, parce qu'à Kigali, c'est du concret. Il faut aller à la base. Il faut changer de compétences. Il faut arrêter de croire qu'il faut faire des études des études classiques que nous faisions à l'époque et qui pour la plupart ne nous servent pas à grand chose. Parfois on emmagasine beaucoup de diplômes parce qu'on a fait 15 ans d'études après le bac et après parfois il n'y a pas de boulot. Alors qu'avec les TIC, surtout avec le concept ICDL, tout le monde peut trouver du travail. Tout le monde peut trouver du travail. Et je voudrais je peux parler comme ça toute une journée parce que c'est quelque chose de passionnant. Je voudrais dire qu'on va se mettre à l'œuvre pour faire en sorte que la jeunesse africaine aille beaucoup plus rapidement pour rattraper le gap parce que c'est le continent de l'avenir. Toutes les richesses du monde entier, les populations, la démographie, c'est l'Afrique qui est en tête. Le potentiel que nous avons est énorme. Je voudrais dire encore merci au président de la fondation ICDL de faire confiance à l'Afrique et de savoir que nous sommes conscients également aujourd'hui de notre valeur. Elle ne sera plus jamais bradée. Il est donc de notre devoir, nous les leaders, d'aller au charbon pour faire en sorte que la jeunesse informelle et formelle soit bien formée dans les domaines des TIC, soit prenne à bras le corps des concepts ICDL. Mais pour réussir, c'est Paris. Au-delà des centres que nous ouvrons à gauche et à droite, nous avons besoin également du soutien des institutions. Ça va aller plus vite. C'est-à-dire que le pays où, si vous avez un centre ou 10 centres privés, vous pouvez former à peu près 2000 jeunes par an. Si les institutions soutiennent ces projets, ça va aller plus vite. Vous pouvez former 20 000 personnes par pays par an. Et c'est pour ça que je remercie encore le président de mon pays, son Excellence Paul Biya, qui n'hésite pas avec tous ses ministres chargés de l'éducation et du commerce, notamment parce que le commerce aussi va avec les TIC. Tout se fait maintenant aujourd'hui en ligne, le fameux e-commerce, vous connaissez, ainsi que les présidents des pays africains qui comprennent, parce que ce n'était pas facile de comprendre que le paradigme a changé. Ou plutôt, il faut changer de paradigme. Il faut changer la façon de voir. Il faut développer un nouveau mindset qui est étroitement basé sur les TIC. Et ICDL tombe bien. Il faudra qu'on fasse tout ce qu'il faut, qu'on sorte des discours pour aller sur le terrain. À ce moment-là, le jeune qui casse les pierres, celui qui vend le bois, celui qui fait la moto, vous pouvez juste à partir d'une application obtenir le service. Tout ça est lié tout ça est lié avec le commerce. Et vous savez, aujourd'hui, les gens se déplacent de moins en moins pour faire des courses. Tout le monde aime être dans sa cuisine et commander quelque chose. En 15 minutes, vous êtes livré. Et d'ici 5 ans, 10 ans, les statistiques seront encore plus importantes. Et l'Afrique doit être le flambeau de cette révolution numérique-là. Morakose Tchane Ndagukunda Rwanda.
Alors, pour ceux qui ne parlent pas, for those who don't speak French, I'm very happy that the last person to speak on this panel before we open up the floor will be Dr. Oduno, and I'm giving you a minute or so to think about what your point of view is going to be, because it's been basically the same question as to everybody. But I like the fact that you will be the last one to intervene, because you on this panel, you're the scholar. So you're the one who gets, even if it's a university, but you understand the role that you have and the weight that's on your shoulders to make sure that the workforce doesn't just have people who are just there and do not possess the right skills. Pour ceux qui ne parlent pas, for those who don't speak French, the very important thing that Mr. Ntanga mentioned is that by coming to Rwanda, he wanted to see for himself, to touch what he's been hearing about and seeing about how Rwanda is all about IT and ICT and what the government has done, what the president has done. He brought some of his, on va dire, employés? Collègues? Employés? Colleagues who got up a minute ago. You got to see them just to show you how young they are, because he understands that the youth and women are the future. Likewise, he mentioned how Africa is the future. We tend to say that in all meetings and all forums and all conferences, but saying it is not enough. We have to act on it, because then at some point we won't be the future, because the future ends up being the present and then someone else comes along, right? But he mentioned that, and he said how he understands that we have a responsibility to make sure that those who are coming behind us have the right tools to face what the world is today and will be tomorrow. So, Professor Duno, in your words, what is your point of view about the current climate of the digital workforce? What do we have right now? What don't we have? How can we close the gap, in your estimation?
Thank you very much. I would say that actually, to answer that question, I would also ask a question to ourselves. India became a net supplier of digital skills to countries like the United States. How did they do that? One thing that I know they did, maybe among other things, was to establish the so-called elite schools that were highly based on digital skills acquisition. Examples of such were like the Indian Institute of Technology. They also had the Indian Institute of Information Technology and National IT School. And over the years, the government, I believe, played a major role in supporting these elite schools to be able to develop the level of digital skills that they did. Another thing that we need to do in Africa to catch up again is to bridge the gap between the academia and the industry. And I think the lady Nadia put it very, very clearly, that we scholars in the universities, we teach a lot, but somebody like Nadia has hands-on, has the benefit of telling the academia that you teach this, but it doesn't work. You need to teach it this way, or this is the approach that you need to do to be able to ensure that those employable skills are being nurtured. Also, I think in the academia, we need to look at our curricula again, to ask ourselves questions whether they are really corresponding to the needs that are demanded. I said previously, when we are saying, or the employment analysis is telling us that your graduates are having only 27% of employable skills, we need to, again, interrogate the curriculum, again, jointly with the industry to ensure that we are providing those skills. Other things that can be done include, again, this relates to industry and academia linkage, is to attract faculty who are coming from industry, people with practical experience. Some retire, they have even advanced degrees, they've worked in high-tech corporations, and they can be very useful in the universities to help us develop those skills. I think that's all I would contribute. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Oduno. We'll now open the floor for questions. We have a question here in front. Let's keep in mind, can we have a microphone here in front, please? Let's keep in mind that what Dr. Oduno just said, which many had mentioned earlier, are the way school is today, the way classes are today, the way the curriculum is done. Is it still applicable to today's needs? Today's needs of the workforce, today's digital skills needs. How can we really close the gap with the way school is at the moment? Do we need to tweak certain things? Go ahead, sir. Your question.
Thank you. I just want to thank, first of all, the government of Rwanda of making such event, for bringing, these basically important people. I want to thank also, ICDL and so on to make this possible and to be part basically of this panel. And last, I want to thank, the panel for their insightful information that I just basically right now they displayed. What I wanted to say is the problem that you are having is far beyond, what we have discussed. We've talked about the content. We've talked about basically, trying to help the youth, okay, to have, this technology in hand. But the thing is today, we are living basically in shared economy. And what we are trying to do today, we are only thinking about catching up, okay, with the modern countries. We are not basically trying to also anticipate the future. We are only wanting to catch up. But we can do things, at the same time. What is happening today that because basically, the information is not available in all parts of the countries, we are having, few problems like extremism is taking advantage out of that, okay, to target those people who have, a lack of knowledge, okay, then they're targeting them, and then what we are having, problems. So for me, I will try basically to answer, some of the questions and add something in some aspects. Today, the digital inclusion, is becoming, as everybody said, okay, it's an important fact. So for that, we need basically to equip our students with the latest technologies, but in the same time, let it be adopted. The other problem that we have that people sitting basically on the top, okay, many of them, are not even equipped with this technology. So which means they are reluctant sometimes basically just to help, okay, going through this. So that's why, training, continuous training, okay, like ICDL, whatever, it's always important. Even for companies, okay, it's very important to have continuous training. And the government can help in this part by maybe incentivizing the companies. Let's say, just an example, put, this cost of the continuous training as part of the tax. Let's suppose it just, an example. Today, the content that we are having in the school, like sir, he said, it's not really matching the real world. We are still learning few things about what is happening in 1960s, what is theory of 1950. But in today's world, the people who are going to the market, the professional market, they are not equipped at all. And that's why basically companies, they can't basically take these people. So we need basically to go into our content and try to adapt it in such a way that everybody will be, other than the digital inclusion, of course, even the content needs to change a little bit. Why I'm saying, we need to anticipate. Today in 2022, we need to anticipate because by 2030, there are a lot of jobs which will be cut. And new other jobs will pop up with a new skill set. If today, we will not be able, even not the youth only, even the people at the universities, teachers, everything, to equip them, to train them, okay, to have an adoption technology, to adopt that technology, we won't be able to do anything. Also, we have a lot of remote areas, people being isolated, okay, from the part of the world, from their countries, where somehow, they are not reminded they are part of that country. We need to do something for them. The government can do a lot of things towards basically making new communities, okay, or building a lot of things because it's costly. The government, needs always, as you rightly said in the past, partner with the private sector, use the existing resources. Okay, they don't have today, the government, they don't have to go, for infrastructure, and pay a lot. They need basically to use private companies who are having this technology, okay, and partner with them and use it basically as an OPEX model. Other than that, I'm seeing that we do have a lot of gaps with regards to addressing the problems that is facing in rural areas. I'll not speak about the company where I'm coming from. I'm Tunisian, I'm African. Okay, I'm working in a company in Dubai, okay, based in Dubai. We came with the delegation of United Arab Emirates. We are partnering in every African countries, with some local companies. We want to give the chance also, to the employees of that country to be part of this noble job. And we are addressing some of the issues with regards to the isolated areas, at least to remind, those people that they are belonging to that country, just basically by building, some modular, spaces, mobile classrooms, equipped with solar panel, equipped, with all the technologies, and at the same time, putting also, a hydro panel, machine to take the water, from the humidity and up to 100 liters of water per day. So just imagine, what can this, it can build a community, in remote areas. And in the same time, we need to look for new business models. The government today, especially the Ministry of Education, Higher Education, or Primary School, they are service providers. They are basically Ministry of Service. They are not generating of revenue. So we need to think about new ways of that school or universities to be sustainable financially. So we need to look, for those models. For the remote areas, by providing, those mobile classrooms equipped with each and everything. First of all, we are educating, the kids, okay, they are having the knowledge. Second thing, we are creating a community that can use the internet, that it can become even, an e-clinic at night, okay, where a lot of African people, they died without knowing what they have, where today, when at night it can become an e-clinic, you will be having in front of you, one doctor who can tell you, let's suppose, if you are facing few problems or if your health is not okay, so he can direct you to go to the government, and it's always scalable. A lot of issues, we need to take it parallelly in the same time in order for us to not only to catch up, but also to anticipate. That's all I want to say, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think besides the lady at the back, we just found another candidate for this panel. You could have been on this panel, sir. You shouldn't be the audience. I'm just saying. All right. Yes, there's a lady up here.
Thank you very much. I'm Joyce Benza. I'm the president of the Computer Society of Zimbabwe. I'm very passionate about rural farming. I sit on a board where we have had to include insurance for the very end user through giving inputs through government. So the caliber of the person that is right at the end, they definitely need some digital skills. But you're talking of your grandmom, or you're talking of a rural child that is in primary, who comes from school and goes to head cattle. And that level of person is from Nigeria. Perhaps you can update us. Has there been any success as far as imparting digital skills in that area? That's my first question. The second one is to do with the mindset. I don't understand a lot of French, but I could just hear mindset from the other end. The mindset that is in the high schools in Zimbabwe, mainly private schools, is that I want my child to be a computer scientist. I don't want ICDL. ICDL is just a general course. It will just teach them one or two things. I don't want that. I would rather that they do STEM and they pass their sciences and they graduate from the computer science department in the university. How would you manage that? So those are my two questions.
Fantastic. Thank you. So should we answer them first or take another question, then answer both? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Honorable Eke.
All right, thank you. Looking at the results and the metrics that is on ground regarding applying digital skills at the primary level for pupils, it has moved us from at least 0.0 to about 22.5 as we speak. That's in Nigeria, because an average school now, especially the private schools, now have adopted the idea of including digital skills as part of their curriculum, right? Which they start giving or teaching the pupils at a very tender age. Now, my little daughter of about 4 years could get home, and while I'm working on the system, she would come identify this to me as a mouse and tell me that they've taught me the spelling of mouse is this, and this is the function of the mouse in a computer. So if that girl grows for another 4 years, she would not be at that level again. Our level of understanding as with regards digital skills would have definitely multiplied by another 50%. So having said that, in Nigeria, we have recorded an advancement that is encouraging enough as far as digital skills is concerned at that level, and it is really working well for us. Of course, we are not there yet. We still have a long way to go because we have just started adopting that methodology. But I can tell you categorically that it is working. Even in some public schools now that are not owned by individuals, owned by government, they have also imputed digital skills as part of their curricula, which they also learn. And what they did was that prior to this time, they had a platform for just primary one. But now they now have preschools introduced even into the public school, through which they learn fundamental computer-related or digital skills-related skills at that level. So for the second question, what was our second question, please? Could you please reiterate, madam?
There's a microphone right back.
The second question was about the mindset of the parent who's got their children in high school, and they want them to do computer science as opposed to getting them exposed to ICDL. And they will resist and say, that is not what I want. I don't want my child to be, I don't want to be paying for that extra dollar. I don't want my child to learn that low level type of learning. I would rather that they go for computer science.
Thank you, madam. You want to say something about it? Okay, let me quickly chip in this. Earlier, I made mention of the word Kaizen that has to do with continuous improvement. I'm also going to have to still refer back to it. There's what we call the CMV model. CMV model. We call it consistent migration of value. Consistent migration of value. Now, under consistent migration of value, it made parents of those days, whom amongst very lots of them, few were able to garner the skill of operating what we call typewriters of those days, the one that sounds with space, you know. But then, when value migrated to another level entirely, that became a still style of digital skills. It was the fundamental level that we adopted way back. But at the point, we realized that this cannot continue to help us. We can't continue to move the papers. We can't continue to shift the space and all that. So we moved to the use of proper computer. Now, for parents who are saying that, I think one of the things we should do for them is to help them identify the problems they have, that is not understanding the purpose of ICDL. And that, in other words, means that ICDL has a role to play, one of which we, as an organization, Tom Flims, would be willing to help them or assist them in achieving this great goal or objective as far as the entire Africa is concerned. I'm going to have a discussion with them by the time we're done with this. People need to understand that when you say you just want your child to have fundamental, if I get your question right, they just want their child to have a fundamental knowledge of computer, right? And that's it. So whatever it is that ICDL is offering, they feel that it is coming to take from them and not value adding. Now, what we need to let them understand, number one, is to make the problem visible to them. That if you bring a child with a fundamental understanding of using the computer without knowing what it takes. Okay, when I started learning the computer, they started me up with Microsoft Word. I want to believe every other person started on that grounds too. So now, at that Microsoft Word level, I do not, when it gets, each time it gets to the point where I need to create a column or a row, it becomes an issue for me. So imagine that a child has been given the primary knowledge of using Microsoft. I'm just using this as a case study, right? And it does not, when it gets to a point when they need to highlight certain things or put certain things in columns or in rows, it does not even know what to do at that point. Because these are part of the complicated areas. And that's where ICDL comes in. They teach you with the knowledge that is required to perfect what you have learned at the primary level. And if you listen to what I said earlier, I said that's one of the reasons why we must give fundamental understanding of these digital skills to the children, so that they get to a level. ICDL doesn't have to start at the foundation level. So they build on the little they have known and get them to become a better person at what they do, especially in application by the time they become a member of a particular workforce, adding value to the system and helping them to achieve their goals, and also improving on the return on investments as the bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's take one last question. We're truly behind time. So there's a hand raised at the back. If we could get the gentleman a microphone. Thank you. Let's try to make this one quick.
Thank you so much. I'm Silas from Kepler College here in Kigali. And we are delighted to be joining ICDL Africa, and we hopefully see that maybe the next MOU signing will be between ICDL and Kepler. Thank you so much. I just want to make one comment when you talked about the academic and whether the classes we have now are really matching the workplace needs. I think most of you would agree with me that we are not saying that digital skills are really replacing the rest of the technical skills that different areas of specialization are offering, but rather integrating them, because then they will sound more than recipe, but also the core, more than ingredient, but also the core recipe itself, so that what we have is something delicious. So because they will be increasing innovative skills, new areas of working and operating, and then we'll be really bridging the gap in the workforce and the new market and many more, as it has been highlighted by those who spoke first. But then my one question is all about, we really need to see that there is access. And by access, different areas of this have been talked about, whether geographic location, how does it reach to the rural versus urban? What about appreciation, attitude, and mindset? These have been talked about. How do we make this really rewarding, and whoever goes through it sees what it brings at the end? But then my last question is about the cost. We have really been seeing the societies of our continent having that financial and what it takes for someone to be digitally literate. How are governments, how are other partners from civil societies, private institutions, working on what it takes for that youth, unemployed, less earning, still be advantaged to access these digital skills which will bring the transformation we want. Please comment about the cost it takes for everyone to be where we want them to be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's address this. Who would like to take a crack at it? Go ahead, Ms. Wamahoro.
Okay. Yeah, the education is not supposed to be expensive because poverty is extremely expensive. So some people think that education is about cleaning the mind, but education is about training the mind to think. So I want to respond to your question, but also respond to the lady's question from Zimbabwe. So education should be exposing people to see and access to the information so that they can choose what they want to take in and live. But when they don't know what is happening, the trends and the opportunity, and there is no way to communicate them, people tend to think that what you're teaching them is expensive. But when they are exposed in a way, they understand that by learning this, there is an opportunity that is opening to you. Or by not learning this, you're not able to become a good farmer, for example. Or by learning this, you're going to be a better accountant. Education in that case becomes not seems as being expensive. So what I think is the problem on the case of, we talked of the parents who thinks, okay, taking an extra course is expensive, I'm already paying a school. If the same parent have done a research on that particular school and knows that the program of this particular school is factoring what ICDL is teaching, basically the person who's going to get out of the school is going to be able to act in his work and being able to produce, to be more productive, then it's still okay. But the person who believes that paying an extra course is the same person that will say, okay, my kids, I am not going to sacrifice my life to pay expensive, education. So it's still the same way, but what I always encourage when, because I'm already in the tech space, is that all the opportunities and communication and event like this and mentorship should be open for access for everyone. And then when everyone access information, they can decide what to go for. So yeah, I'm not sure if I have answered your question the way you wanted it, but I still believe that just a university like KEPRA expose some of those ones who want to take ICDL, those ones who cannot afford it or don't think it's expensive, just let them go with the existing curriculum, but open up for everyone to choose what can be available.
Thank you, Mr. Wamahoro. Dr. Oduno?
Yes, thank you. In addition to that, I just want to let the gentleman know that in my university we have invested massive resources in ICT-related infrastructure. But one thing that we've not done is link the tuition to the cost of the resources that is put into that particular area. Thank you.
Honorable Eke.
All right. I'd like to add one or two things to buttress the point she made earlier. There is a saying, when I talk to people about training in Nigeria or in other countries, I tell them something. I say, if you don't train them, don't blame them. That's one. I also use this balance. I say to them, if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. Right. So what I feel should be done, or the step ICDL should take at a time like this, is to see how they can synergize with schools. I would use the College of Medicine in Nigeria for an example. At one point at the College of Medicine, you would be at a place called Unilag, where they give you the fundamentals of medicine, right? But as soon as you attain your third year, they move you out of the generic understanding of medicine and place you at a particular point where you will be able to learn practically what medicine is all about, using people that are hospitalized, using what's that course that has to do with using the human parts and understanding it. They would use corpses, they would use people that are, so it becomes a practical thing. So what am I trying to say here? ICDL can collaborate with these institutions, let them take them at the fundamental level, and once you have a synergy with that school or with that institution, you pick it up. So a parent does not perceive it as something that is coming at an extra cost. Rather, you already have a collaboration and a synergy between you and the school, such that the school tutors, lecturers would no longer look in the direction of digital skills once you are adopted into the system, and that is given to you to handle from a particular level. So they take it to a fundamental level, and then you take it up from the advanced level to where they need to be. I think that's one of the solutions and the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I need you to give a huge round of applause to my other esteemed panelists. You did a fantastic job. Thank you very much. You can get back to your seats. Thank you. Now, ladies